Hello.
Hi. With the mic unmuted that time.
Yeah, it's not my fault this time. Let's see. Let's do spooky music this time.
Spooky music.
Yeah, why not, right?
Ooh, are we gonna do a Halloween episode?
I
I don't know what we would DM up or talk about DM wise for Halloween, but I'm down.
Spooky monsters.
Good idea, actually. How to build a boss rush dungeon.
I would do that.
That sounds fun, actually.
I would run that.
The only boss rush dungeon I've ever done is my Metal Gear Solid session thing, which I need to run eventually for the Discord.
That actually sounds super interesting. You should run that for the Discord.
I should have fixed it because I made it like 2 years ago and I didn't know anything about TNT.
Everybody should. All these DMs that are up in this Discord need to start running games, yo.
I need to start doing something. I've been so busy.
I'm looking at all these like 20-something game masters I've got listed in this channel.
Yeah, I'm gonna go in there and start naming them off individually, so...
Yeah, where's your game at? Let's see if this is working. Oh, cool.
It is not
Oh, hey Gus, what's up?
good.
Sweats? Yeah, you should be sweating. Where's your game at, Gus?
Don't tell her to sweat. I'll kill you.
Oh, man.
Watch me chow down on this pumpkin spice coffee.
You're so basic.
Rare.
So basic. All right, let me pull this up. Cool. So I guess today we're going to talk about world building, which is like a topic tailored directly for me, to me.
We both have our own episodes in the little like docs we have set up, and this one is his.
Yeah.
You'll never guess what mine's about.
No, I would never guess. I have no idea. Please don't worry me. Let's move this down. Okay. Yeah, so we're going to talk about world building. It's very, very important to me specifically because that's how I get internet, please. You know what? That might be my internet and not yours, to be completely fair.
It's I have the stream pulled up and it's kind of staying consistent for me. I don't know.
Okay. I mean, I'm dropping frames, but it's not an unusual amount. I wish I had a better answer other than Cost Communications really just doesn't give a shit about anything. Anyways. Yeah, so world building specifically is important to me. That's where I get probably most of my enjoyment from DMing D&D at least. Is like creating places for people to live and like nations and politics and all that kind of stuff. I'm a giant like history nerd and mythology nerd and stuff, so all of that kind of blends into world building and how world building works. And I think we both play in our own homebrew worlds completely, don't we?
Yeah, because I didn't want to read the book, so I just made my own things up.
I mean, that's fair.
It wasn't like for love of history or politics or anything cool. I was just like, that's a lot to read. Oh, look, I can draw. Makes a map.
I mean, yeah, and to be fair, like, I guess it's one reason to do it, because there's a lot of already, like, written lore in a place like the Farron and the Swords Coast. And sure, you can kind of, like, you can use those places and do them however you want to do them or whatever. That's the beauty of D&D. But you're always going to have players who goes to somewhere like Baldur's Gate and has a preconceived notion of what Baldur's Gate is.
Yeah. So you can make your own thing, and then they show up and they have no idea like what's gonna happen, and then you've got like a whole new like twist on it.
Yeah, and for some people that's great, but for other people, especially for certain player types, they already have like a preconceived notion in their head about exactly how the city is laid out or what kind of things should be in a specific place or a specific city, or they know that they can go to Candlekeep, for instance, to get vast tolds information about everything. So for me, it's a lot easier to set my own rules and places and stuff by creating my own world. So that's exactly what I did. All of my campaigns, all of my campaigns, all of my one shots, all of my everything takes place in the same world, usually on the same exact timeline. I think your games take place at different times, don't they?
Well, right now, my main game is the only one going on in the world because the other game kind of fell through. But I do run all of my one shots out of there, and other people have run one shots out of there, and I make it all canon. So
yeah, and so that's another whole level of complexity, is letting other people run games in your world and like actually including it and stuff.
I live for it. I love collaborative, like everything. It's a mess though.
Yeah,
there's
it's definitely a lot going on with that. So we're gonna talk about, I guess, like how to start it, and we'll go from there. So the first thing I want to bring up is Dale Kingsmill's sperm method. So she's an Australian. She worked with Geek and Sundry for a little bit, doing like lore videos and vlogs and stuff for Geek and Sundry. If you don't know who she is, her YouTube channel is called Monarchs Factory. I also have a link to the video specifically that I'm talking about. Let me just get that and throw that in there. So that's the specific video for this that I'm talking about, but she does a bunch of different stuff, lore videos, mythology videos. She talks about different homebrew things that she does for her games specifically, or how to like organize her DM binder, because she plays IRL games as opposed to like online, like most of us do. But anyways, definitely go check her out. But I'm going to be talking about a specific method she used that she picked up from one of her like politics or civics teachers, called the SPERM method. So SPERM stands for social, political, economic, religious, and military. And it's a way to make sure that you have everything that a society would need when you're building a world. So we're going to use that when we like talk about what we're building or what we're placing where, and why I decided to make sure that this was built or not built or whatever. But the first thing that we have listed is geography, figuring out what kind of landscape you want. So when you built your map, did you just like scribble a bunch of lines on a piece of paper, or?
I used well, actually, Gabe is the one who made the map for the session world I use, and he used what was that website? Incarnate, I think.
Okay.
And it just randomly generates a bunch of stuff, and it makes it like a real world where it's like, you know, mountains where mountains would be in a normal, like on an Earth type planet and stuff like that. And then from there, we just added more to it.
So I think for the world that I have, I just like took a piece of printer paper and like drew squiggled continents where I guess I wanted continents to be. My world map is actually super inspired by the Final Fantasy IX world map, now that I like look at them like next to each other, which makes sense because I made this world when I was probably like in like 7th grade, when I was playing Final Fantasy IX like constantly. So I guess I just took a lot of inspiration for it. But then I went back and like put in mountains and put in like little lakes or rivers or lagoons or something like that. So the first thing we have is geography, finding out the landscape that you want. So what I have written for this is, are you building an entire world, or do you just want to play in a city and its surrounding area? If you're building an entire world, that kind of gives you leeway to like do whatever you want. you can have a desert here and tundra there and forests of whatever here, and mountains and all that kind of stuff. But it's also a lot, like, that's a lot of empty space that you kind of now have to fill with something. It also gives your players the ability to completely jump ship and go somewhere completely unexpected that you're not ready for them to go to or prepared for or even thought about it. It was just like a spot on your map that's now like a playable area.
They T-pose into the area before it's fully developed, and they start just like clipping, and it's like, God damn it.
Yeah, there's like mesh everywhere and stuff. There's no like actual
blessed.
Textures. Yeah.
I'm so blessed because, like, I think I mentioned this on the show before, that like my party keeps going back to this guild and getting jobs, so I get to decide where they go every time, and they won't go and do their own thing. So it's like, yay, they don't go to T-pose land.
Yeah. I kind of set myself up for failure because I put it in like a lot of like port cities and stuff like that because I think about the politics and like the trading and all that kind of stuff. But that leads my players completely open to just like jump on a ship one day and randomly go somewhere completely not at all what I was thinking.
Don't they have like goals or something? Or,
I mean,
are
they
they
do,
just
yeah.
like, that seems like a cool place to go adventure?
They absolutely have like an overarching goal, but knowing my players, I can absolutely see like, nah, we're just gonna abandon that goal, or we'll get to that, but we're gonna go do this first.
Well, I know that like whenever I was in your session for that 1 or 2 times, I forgot how many times I was there. Yeah, they were like teleported there or something, right? So they had to look at it. Yeah. They were forced.
They were, and that whole teleport had nothing to do with like me wanting them to be there, or more so just I wanted them to be completely like thrown off. Are we being blessed by a cat? This poor cat.
Poor, look, he's hugging me and loves me.
He was like, I just wanted to like walk around.
No, he's hugging me, look, and he's giving me kisses. See, look, he hugs. It's so cute.
That's
he's
pretty
the
funny.
best. Anyway, I'm gonna hug the cat now.
Okay.
While we play, while we talk.
Hey, whatever. The second thing that we have written for like a starting point is the time. And you had, what time setting do you want your game? And so for this I wrote, will your games be on the same timeline or will they be forever apart? So we kind of touched base on that, but I have 2 major campaigns. Both of them are running the exact same timeline to the exact same day, to the point where I just had a couple party members from one of the other campaigns jump in a game because the parties are in the same city and would have met each other.
Yeah. I think that's easier than having a time skip, unless you do thousands of years or something where they can't affect each other, because originally Gabe's game was first, but then I made one 15 years before because somebody wanted to play the older brother of their player character. Yeah. So I was like, okay, mine will be before. And we ran into a lot of problems when we tried to do that because it was just too close together.
Yeah, and you like kind of set yourself up for like creating your own, or your players accidentally creating their own time paradoxes and stuff like that. And then you got to like retcon another game or something. And I don't know.
Just don't ever do that. That's my advice. Run them at the same time or thousands of years apart.
The only thing with running them at the same time is your players, or at least for my games, both games have a specific goal. Both with like a specific evil and a specific story point. Mm-hmm. But those story points are intertwined with each other. So one group is absolutely going to affect how the other group's story goes and vice versa.
Yeah.
So that can be kind of challenging, especially for like a newer DM too. Maybe stay away from that because that's a lot of like story crossover that's going to be, and you're going to do the thing where you think about one game while you're playing the other game. And you're like, didn't you guys just do that? Oh no, wait, that was my other group. And like, it can
that happens if you play too many games in general,
Yeah.
but especially if they're like that close together, it's just like, don't set yourself up for that. It's just a mess.
Let me see. Different areas of your world will be in different time settings as cultures advance at different lengths. So, we'll take a look at my world map here in a minute. But I have different, basically like zones or something like that, and some of these areas are further in the future than other areas, and that's because even in real life, certain places and certain civilizations advance faster than others. So that allows you to kind of play with like the time setting. Like, do you want like a Victorian era time setting? Well, maybe have one of your nations a little bit further along the tech tree, quote unquote, than like, you know, some old advanced elven nation that's kind of just stuck in their ways or something like that. And that allows you to like play with what time settings you want. You just drop the group in whichever like nation area you want the time setting to be in. At least that's how I do it.
Yeah, watch them like have the culture shock as they go to different areas or something.
Yeah.
There's a lot of like different things you could do with that.
And then you have too many sessions in World World, and it was a mess.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So this is especially the more than one DM thing. I don't think I could ever have more than one DM running in my world. Shannon Ockmorn has like a one-shot idea that she wants to do with a specific city that is in my world, but that's all been predetermined, and I've been there every step of the way for all of like the creation and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
So like I know where what is and what is what, and like
honestly, you're a little bit more of a stickler for it than I am. Like Gus, Rory, and Gabe have the most like hands in my game and session world and stuff. So like they come up with like characters or something that's like important in the world, and I'm just like, yeah, go for it. They come up with like something completely off the wall. Yeah, that's happening. I'm just like, yeah. Feed me. I love it. But like I know if you have a certain vision for things, like you don't want a bunch of people walking around it. Well, it's really cat.
Yeah, it's just, it depends on like how you run your stories or your games too. Is, you know, are your games more true to real life? Are they more true to fantasy? You know, and if not all of the DMs or the people that are running games in your world are on the same page as far as that is, then it just gets messy or confusing.
Yeah,
especially for the people players.
Yeah.
And then the next thing we wrote was politics, kingdoms, towns, city-states. So we'll use the this is where like the whole sperm method ties in. So once you have your world and your geography and the things you want, and like the cool fantastical places, like, you know, the Leviathan that guards the plane to the elemental, or the elemental plane of water, and like, you know, you've got your like cool canyon that was ripped apart by some story event that you've always kind of envisioned in your head or something like that. Once you have all those little places placed, it's time to populate your world, which of course comes with kingdoms and nomad tribes and cities and places for people to go to rest and all that kind of stuff. And that's where the social, political, economic, religious, military thing comes in. So if you're building a nation, you would think of the social, like, why is this nation here? What brought all these people together? Are they all humans that banded together to fight off orcs or something? Or to fight off the elven menace, since humans tend to be racist? So that's why you have that reason. And then political, is it a kingdom, or is it some form of like rudimentary democracy, or is it an empire? My politics for certain nations are super simple and like to the point, and for other nations there's like a religious body that controls what the kingdom does, but they have a grand duchess that does like other stuff, and like it gets super complicated. But I think, like I wrote, that helps your world feel more real and alive.
Yeah, it's even good to like those examples you just gave off, just sit down and come up with a bunch of examples and then just start tacking them onto places on your map. That's what I tend to do.
Yeah, that is, yeah, it's a good way to do it. And politics allow for like weird story hooks to happen, or like especially humans. If you're playing in some kind of like human nation or human area or something like that, where the human race is the most prominent, politics are involved. Humans can't not politic things. It's like something that's inbred into us. So things like backstabbing or like lines of a kingdom like that's just been passed down to family eventually leads to like a super weak king, and now there's a revolt, or there's about to be a revolt, or like the nation is in like an era of like they're about to fight back to take back their, you know, their country or something like that. All those kinds of things like lead for really cool, interesting story points where your characters kind of get like caught up in the middle of something that's way bigger than they'll ever be. And they have to kind of decide, like, are we going to go ahead and go with this? Are we going to leave? Are we going to, like, kill the king ourselves and become the new king? Like, all kinds of things. That actually leads me to one of my old games with Plummet. We were in the Underdark, and we came across this, like, village that was basically like a slave village to, I can't remember the monster that was controlling it, but basically he had like mind warped all these people. And we killed the monster and then convinced them that Plummet's character was a god.
Oh my god, I love it.
Basically created like our own Underdark nation.
Oh my god, how did that end up going?
We don't know. We left the Underdark.
Oh my god.
So we never like went back down there to like.
Oh god, never returned home.
Or, like,
oh my god, that is so like D&D player character, like in a nutshell.
We were just like, we're gonna like create all these things. We're gonna change how your life works. We're gonna like put you in charge, even though we don't know anything about you. And then we got, you know.
That is things. The most player character thing I've ever heard. Oh my god,
it was pretty great. And then economic, basically that helps you build like, it helps you build nations, it helps you build towns too, but think about like, she does a better job explaining it, but think about what makes this place able to sustain itself. For a nation, are they a seafaring nation? Do they trade over the sea? Do they fish? Are they selling lumber? Do they have lush forests that other places don't have? Do they have access to mines with gems? How are they getting their money and their political power? Because money does matter. And then for cities specifically, economics is important because that allows you to create your zones. So like having like a market district or a slums type area or like a noble house type area, and having those things directly close to one another. So a rich merchant would be close enough to the merchant district that he would be able to get to his store or whatever. And maybe his store would be close enough to the trade district. So it helps you like place them on the map, like where you think they should be. And it actually helps to kind of organize your cities when you build them. Religious is another big one, specifically for me. Gods play a super important part in my worlds, but for some DMs, gods really aren't important like at all.
How can you not? I couldn't imagine playing in a game where gods weren't important, because that's like one of the biggest things where like, because I'm not like a really religious person in real life, so I was like looking at all this fantasy religion, I'm like, oh, this is so cool, I'm just gonna start slapping it all over the place and making my own shit up. I have my own pantheon. I'm just like, yeah, I'm here. It's so dumb. I get really out of hand with it. That's the one I can really get to on this list. I'm like, yeah, that one.
Well, and I mean, it's important too, because even in like real life or whatever, religion shapes the way that we do pretty much everything. It shapes the way that countries are made. It's the reason that most of our wars are fought. It's a big deal. And that would absolutely translate into like a fantasy world or something like that. The one kingdom I was talking about with a duchess and another order, that order is a religious order of 12. So religion controls that whole kingdom. It controls everything they do, the reasons they go to war, if they have a famine, how they act or what they do. And that allows you to do things like have a weird political system where maybe there's turmoil going on, or have a god ruin an entire nation over something.
Well, I liked the desert town that you made, where everyone was like freaking out about this god and like giving them like blood sacrifices and stuff. I liked that a lot. I took that idea.
So
not like the most original idea, but I was like, I got that from you specifically, though I've heard of it before.
So she's talking about an area in my game called the Shadow Sands, which is a giant desert that didn't used to be there, but due to a world event became that. So the nomadic people that lived there created a city called Sarenthal. And they believe that the desert is controlled by a god. And I used the Egyptian pantheon for that area just because I wanted to do a little bit of Egyptian like stuff. So they believe that Set controls the desert and controls whether or not the desert swallows the city, basically. So in order to combat the desert, they do things like for 2 days out of the year, they have this big, huge festival where they sacrifice a bunch of like young children and animals and all kinds of different stuff, all in this like beautifully crafted, immaculate temple that any other day of the year would be like a magnificent to look at and like this beauty upon the earth or whatever. But during those 2 days is like hell on earth or whatever. Yeah.
Don't. You hear screaming. It's like, no, I'm not going there today.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'll go to Walmart tomorrow.
But the thing is like, does that god even exist? Is that a thing that actually happens? Like, those people don't really know. And in fact, I guess I can let in a secret. Set isn't a real god in my game. He's just something that those cultural people think.
See, Rue was right. He had the right idea. Yeah. He's like, this is bullshit.
And even it's so warped that the dragon that they later fought in that area, Apep, believed that she was a goddess working for Set, and that she was the bringer of chaos, like his instrument of doom or whatever for a god.
Man, who's gaslighting these folks? They're out here gaslighting a dragon.
But yeah, so religious can do like really interesting things. That whole scenario kind of led because of that religion thing. And then military. So some nations are going to be warring states. Some nations are going to try to be peaceful above all others. But either which way, it's human nature and really kind of any civilization's nature to want to protect yourselves from the scary dark reaches of the world. So a military is very important. And how you run that military would be specifically important. Humans tend to like favor a strong military with a strong back, and you know, they put a lot of money and time and effort into it. So a human nation might have like a lot going on as far as that is concerned. Whereas opposed to an elven nation may or may not have like a really strong, crazy army, kind of depending on how the elves are or whatever.
They just have a magic barrier around their town so nobody bothers them.
Or yeah, they could do that too.
Me.
Which, I mean, would allow for interesting things. Like if you're on the inside of that barrier, maybe there's not a bunch of guards or like anything like that. So what kind of mischief can you get into in a city that doesn't have a lot of, you know, militaristic properties about it or anything?
A lot. Exactly.
And then the last thing I have for the sperm method specifically is when to use it and how far out should you be looking. I use it really kind of for like a large scope, like nation building. I don't really go down to like the city level with it because I already have specific ideas for city planning and stuff in my head. But that's what you kind of need to think of. And that goes back to like, are you building an entire world or are you planning just a city? And that's kind of where you should decide where to put the zoom on the lens for that. Like how in depth you want it to be or anything like that. Could you, if you're anything like me, you can get so in depth that you need to stop.
Yeah, I do too. I'm like, I wrote this on the doc somewhere, but it's like, I've gotten to the point where there's so much shit in certain cities that the players will never even see over half of it in some places, unless they just decide to go certain places, which they're never going to. And it's like, whatever, it's there if they ever decide, I guess.
So that leads us to our next like bullet, which is what's important to include and what's not. So my thing is, I have learned when not to overbuild. It's important that your players help build the world that they play in, and leave room for improv areas and NPCs. So for, I guess maybe I could do it this way. Let me see. Let's go to, okay. So what I have here is all of my different cities for the Empire of Alexandria. And these are just different areas that are in that city. So depending on the size of the city will depend on how much I have in it. So for Bay Cove, we can open that up.
Bay Cove. That
it's
like a World of Warcraft.
Kind of, yeah. It's a very small, I mean, the population is 500. So the largest kingdom, or the largest city in Alexandria, the population is 3.5 million. So population 500 is super small. So there's nothing really in here. There's a couple buildings that they might go to if they ever went here. One's the shipyard, which is the only reason that this city exists. So you would include the shipyard. And then the Bloated Whale, which is like a tavern. And I've got like a little bit of backstory about why the tavern's named something stupid. But other than that, I don't have like who the tavern owner is. I don't have any specific buildings or anything like that, like shops or anything. And that's because when those players go to that world, they can kind of create that themselves by like, hey, we want to go to a general store. Okay, now this place has a general store. And now I can like, oh, we're talking to the owner. Let me just quickly make a little NPC or whatever. Just make sure that you take notes, because if your players are anything like my players, they'll go back to this place a year later and they'll be like, well, we want to go to that general store. And you'll be like, what are you talking about? We want to go
talk to Bippity Boppity. Like, who the fuck is Bippity Boppity? God damn it.
Yeah.
Bippity Boppity.
So in comparison, though, the largest city is Alexa.
Oh, look at how organized you are. All of my notes are on one document that takes a really long time to load now.
No, I can't. I cannot.
I need to change my way of life because it's so bad. It takes like on my phone, it takes like a whole 10 seconds to load.
There's no way. No, I can't do it. So for this, like I said, the first thing is the population, so I know exactly how big the city is, and then it's got an overview, like what the city looks like. This is kind of like the flavor text that you would read out if your players were like walking up on the city, taking up an entire island, or even spilling over onto the north and westmost bank. So it's kind of just like gives you like a little flavor text or whatever. But then this has specific buildings. I mean, this is kind of a bad example because it doesn't have. Oh, no, it does. So it's got specific buildings like the palace and the dockyard and the harbor. And then because it's such a huge city, I've got a section for inns and taverns, and I've got specific inns, specific taverns, the differences between them, who runs those places or whatever. And then I also have like a market district and like specific shops. And shout out to this guy's shop. Like specific names for those shops and the things that they could do in those places and stuff like that. So really kind of depending on the city is kind of how dependent you want. Is the city going to be like a major plot hook type city? Then maybe kind of go all out on that one. But you need to make sure that you leave room for the barmaid to have a name that kind of you come up with on the spot that you can then put in later, or things like that basically is what I'm trying to say. Like, you need to make sure that you leave room for places to grow and for your players to kind of be the reason that those places grow. Make sure that you leave room for make sure that you leave room for your players to maybe make their own camp that becomes like a small little town or city or something, or later on in their career they make enough money to have a keep, and like that keep becomes like its own thing, you know?
Yeah.
if you overfill, then you don't have the option to do that.
Or you have to start deleting your own stuff off of your doc that you spent time making for them to make stuff.
Yeah, absolutely.
Do that. Yeah, I wrote on here that a lot of the times I will give players places to make themselves. Like from their backstory, I'll give them a whole town. Like they're like, oh, I'm from a town that's kind of like this, and I don't have like anything like that. So I'm like, okay, well, let's make a town now together.
So I do that. So what we're going to do, we're going to talk about my first like asset thing that I have, which is OneNote. So I have everything in Google Drive for Red Ivy specifically so I could share it with my other DM who was helping me co-write it. But I usually use OneNote. So we're going to get into some meta here real quick. So if I... Ooh. We're not being crazy.
I've never actually seen OneNote, so I'm gonna see it for the first time now.
Yeah, hold on.
I would do it, or I would keep... Oh, I refreshed Twitch, and now it's like an ad again.
Oh, no.
Twitch, no.
All right, so with OneNote, this is my Friday game. I name all of my games something specific to their story. So Render of the Dead is the Friday game's name. But I've got tabs up here at the top which have specific things. I'm not going to stay on that tab for very long. So the tabs will have specific things like lore or places or characters or notes or session planning or whatever. And then for places, so Ivlasar is an example of like a capital city that I was talking about, like a huge city. It's got an overview, buildings, very specific things written out. I don't know if you guys can actually see that. Is it not showing up on Drive or on stream?
I can see it. You just minimized it really small to where I can't read it anymore.
Okay, because on OBS it doesn't look like any of the big giant white spot is like filled up.
Oh yeah, no, it doesn't. It's like not there.
Okay, weird. So I promise you there's a...
I promise there's places.
I don't know why it doesn't capture. But so for this, like I've even got like little dollar signs next to like the inns for like how expensive those inns would be and like, you know, are they obnoxious or whatever.
That's cute.
And then, you know, I've got like, you can do things like sub tab for places that are like specific to, you know, that city or whatever, or that empire. You can collapse to like close everything down. So what you were talking about was having like characters kind of make their own thing. So that's what I did with Hoshi specifically, is I drew the map for this area and then I was like, okay, here's the map. These are the kinds of races and people that are in these areas. Where's your character from? And my, you know, players, for while they were making their characters before Season 0, like, oh, okay, well, I'm going to be from this island, Hoshi, or whatever. All right, well, what is your character? Oh, they're Genasi. Okay, well, now Genasi need to be added to Hoshi. So, like, how do I, like, work that into how I want this to be or whatever else? So that's kind of how I did that. The Temple of Eldith being in Hoshi is specifically only because Aquarn's character is from there. And that's like the temple that she was at. So it makes sense for that temple to be in that place that she was based on her character and all that kind of stuff. But anyways, I use OneNote. It's super effective. You can use it in your browser. It syncs to everything. You can pull it up on your phone, all that kind of stuff. Drive is probably perfectly acceptable too.
I like this, except for the giant white screen, but I'm sure it's not like that when you actually use it.
When you actually use it, it's full.
I don't know
It's
where
a dock.
saying that. I can see the sidebar, like with all of the names and stuff, but like the middle is just like.
Yeah, I don't know why it's like that. But basically that middle section is full of my own, like, it's basically a doc with bullets. And the cool thing about OneNote is you can write wherever you want on the page. So you can click on a random place and start typing there, and then click on a completely different random place and not worry about formatting, or like, you know how documents have to do like weird tabs and all that kind of stuff. You don't have to do that with OneNote. You can just click wherever you want.
I didn't know it would pull up on my phone. Now I can, because a lot of the times I'm at work when I'm coming up with something, and that's why I just use Google.
Nope, it'll
docs.
absolutely pull up on your phone. Super
They're
useful.
an app?
Yes.
Or is it...
Yep.
Oh.
It's a OneNote app.
Well, you sold me on that. Hold on.
So the other things that I have, as far as the assets are concerned, to help like make stuff. So the other thing is using Drive's comment system as an interactive map. So what we're gonna do is pull up my world map. Hey, so this is my world map. It's just, like I said, it's a piece of printer paper with scribbles drawn on it. Because I am not an artist by any means. But with Google's comment system, I can like leave a place, like leave one of these little yellow marks, and I can click on them. You can also drag stuff around in OneNote. I started using it. Yes. You can drag stuff around and move it all around.
OneNote doesn't have, they don't have a, how is it spelled? Is it just OneNote?
It's, yeah, one word, OneNote.
Oh,
do you have an iPhone?
Yeah.
I mean, it's a Microsoft app, but it should still be there.
There it is. I see the item.
Yep.
Okay. Yeah, I'm just like...
So for this, you can share this and you can share it with your comments, and basically it allows people to click on one of these boxes. And so it darkens everything, highlights the box you clicked on, and then highlights the comment for that box. And that's the name of that city. If you click on the bigger box, that's the name of the kingdom that those cities live in or whatever. This is like a super neat and easy solution to having a crazy world map like I do with a bunch of different stuff on it. And like trying to figure out where things are, or like showing things to players. Like, when we did that pirate one shot and I had you guys like worrying about where this chain of islands was and stuff like that, it's so easy to just like pull this up, click on the box that the islands are in, and be like, it's right here. And like it immediately draws your eyes to it and all that kind of stuff. So super look into that. That's just Google Drive. It's just a picture, and you can comment on it.
No.
And then what else do we have in the assets thing? Oh, the map builder. So let me just...
Which map builder do you have on there?
I use this.
You linked it, but I'm so bad. I never click your links.
Oh, you're good.
No.
So I use this.
Oh, excellent.
It allows you to export to PNG or JPEG or whatever you need to use for Roll20 or whatever. You can choose the size, like a small town or a huge, gigantic, like capital city. You can choose the different kinds of styles you want, like thin lines or labels, or like how it's kind of viewed with like the complex blocking. You can change the colors, which is kind of nice. You can add like, do you want your towers to be rounded or squared? Do you want water?
It's so good. And it looks more like a real town than anything I would ever just draw by myself. Absolutely. Because I don't think like that. My brain doesn't make maps. It
there we go.
Draws OCs.
Oops. You can also like warp sections. You can do... So you can click on buildings and you can turn them like simple buildings off or on. You can make them super complex. There we go. And in layout, you can do kind of a lot more stuff. You can turn off whether or not you have a plaza or whether or not you have city walls, or like a citadel or fort. There's a lot of different customizations. You can add like a river and a coastline if you want. There's a lot of different stuff, and then once you're done, you just click export, and it exports it to a PNG file or whatever you need to use. Super, super, super useful. Cannot like recommend that site enough. It has literally saved my life, especially if you're not an artist at all, which I am not. It's super helpful. And then what I do is I go into Roll20 and I use the text tool in Roll20, and I like write text over the buildings for what I want the buildings to be. So like I'll, this is whatever, the Blackbird Inn or whatever, and I'll draw a little line and then I'll write the text for Blackbird Inn. And it kind of gives players a more like I don't know, like they feel more like they're actually there, in my opinion. When you've got like something like a map or something. And then I use handouts of like scene art that I found that kind of matches or whatnot. And then the last asset I think I have written down is the calendar. So let me open this up.
I super need one of those. I'm just like taking my own notes for this episode. Like, help me make the stuff.
Do it up. So this should work. Okay. So Donjon, it's a great site. Has a whole bunch of different stuff for all kinds of different game systems, including D&D or whatever. But this is what I use Donjon for. So like I said, I have multiple campaigns running on the exact same timelines, and I keep track of what day of the timeline that they're actually on. So what I did was I created a 4-month year. So I want 4 months. You can name whatever the months, whatever you want. You want the last, let's say you want them all to be the same amount of days. So they're all 43 days. That should change. Hold on. Oh, I'm dumb. So you want them all to be the same in number of days or whatever. So you just take the days in the year and you divide it by 4 or 5 or however. Let's just say like there's 280 days in the year. Nope. 280. But it'll automatically kind of like do all this for you.
Wow.
It has cycles of the moon. You can turn how many moons. So there's 4 moons for this planet. You can just have one. And it's got the cycles of the moon for you
Have
that
all of
rotate the planet.
your werewolf calendar.
Yep. Also, you can do what I do is click here and add a note specifically to each day. So I have festivals and holidays specific to different nations and stuff written on this calendar. So if for whatever reason my players happen to be in, say, Alexandria on the Festival of the Hunt days, they would come into Alexandria as they're like in a celebration and it would be like a festival or whatever. Or I use the lunar cycle to do weird things with my sorcerer Tiny and her wild magic.
I love wild magic.
So it allows for like some cool stuff. But the most important thing is you can save and restore this. So you can use the code that it gives you to save, or you can save it to a file. And then all you do is open this site back up, hit restore calendar from file. So we'll do that now. And then it brings up, your file system or whatever.
Nice. That's handy.
And you just, bam. And then it brings up all your stuff. So you can see here, like, I've got Crystal's Day for Alexandria and Clearfort, which is like a human holiday. I've got Reforge, which is a holiday for Dwarian, and Clearfort, which is where a bunch of dwarves live. Rebirth ceremony for elves. So it's an elven like festival. So all of my elven kingdoms are listed on that. Or Ancestors Day for dwarves, or the celebration of bounty, which is like in my head like a Thanksgiving thing, for Hoshi, which is just it's specific to them. So characters from Hoshi on the day of bounty, they might not be in Hoshi, but they'll be like, hey, wait, today is bounty, we should like have a meal or whatever, because those characters would feel that tradition. But anyways, yeah, the calendar's super useful, super helpful. You can save and restore it, so you don't have to like worry about making a bunch of work and then losing it or whatever and doing it all over again. Super useful. But yeah, that's all of my assets and stuff. I'll drop all of these in the Discord, like the links for them and stuff.
Yeah.
I'll also drop the link to Dale Kingsmill's video. Please go check her stuff out. Don't subscribe unless you like her content or whatever, but it's super worth it. If you're into mythology or anything like that, then definitely go check her stuff out, because she's very in-depth about it and very entertaining to watch, and all that kind of stuff. But that method right there is very useful, and she explains it a lot better than I did, but she also has a specific format for it. Other than that, I think that's pretty much like the basics. I could literally talk about this all day, and I'm trying not to.
It's okay. I don't have a lot to say this time. My world is really confusing and hard to talk about to people that aren't in it. If that makes sense.
It does. Yeah.
I'm really
I
good
hope
at this,
the few of you that were able to tune in were able to watch it. I know we dropped a lot of frames. I wish I had like a solution for that. I've been trying to come up with one for months. I'm having issues. This Sunday we will not be playing D&D. Unfortunately, well, not unfortunately, one of our members has things to do with his children, so no big deal. But we will be back the week after that. This show will be back September 11th, I think.
We both look at the calendar.
Yes, September 11th. Depending, I have court that day for some personal stuff, so maybe.
We could just do it the 18th.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. But we'll definitely keep all that stuff in Discord like we always do. Also, September 6th.
That's close to my birthday.
September 6th, I am running another community night. It'll be streamed. It'll be in my Castlevania-esque, spooky, scary, horrible area on my map, Baronovia. It will not be NC-17 like most of those games will be. It'll be more rated R because it'll be on Twitch, but still. The people that I just had play in that game were super, super, like, they loved it, so it should be a good time. Yeah, follow us on our things. Sarah does a podcast which should be coming out soon.
Yeah, that is actually your birthday, isn't it? February 6th.
Her birthday is every day. Don't let her lie to you.
No, it's actually February 6th. I know that because it's 2 days before my birthday.
Oh, snap.
Yeah. Both Aquarius. Are you surprised?
No.
Yeah, we'll get that podcast going again. We've got to get you on there for sure.
Yeah, I'm super
We
down.
need to record that.
Yes, Discord and the Twitter, as the love of my life is so kindly dropped in chat. Trying to think of anything else that we're missing. Probably not. Thanks for hanging out and listening to me talk about world stuff, Sarah.
Yeah.
This is.
I said a few things. Give me the NPC episode.
Well, you know what? We'll just do the NPC episode next. We won't even let them vote. We're just gonna do it.
Then you get to sit there and listen to me
Hell
talk.
yeah.
Even no, don't actually do that. Please talk with me. I can't talk by myself. I'll start crying.
Nah, you're fine. I've got a couple of things to say about NPCs. But yeah, anyways, thanks a lot, guys. We super appreciate it. We love you all. Bye.